The proximity alarm shrieked as Elias Vance struggled with the transport's failing controls. His knuckles whitened around the manual steering column, a backup system that hadn't been used in years. "Come on, you stubborn piece of," the ship lurched, cutting him off as another chunk of asteroid debris glanced off the hull. The navigation screen flickered, displaying the medical outpost on the small moon below. It was his only chance. Elias had been making a routine supply run to the outer colonies when he'd encountered the unexpected debris field. Now, with propulsion at 30% and life support failing, the unassuming medical facility represented his only hope for survival. "Emergency landing protocol initiated," the ship's AI announced with unsettling calm. "Hull integrity at 42%. Recommend immediate evacuation upon landing." "No kidding," Elias muttered, fighting the shuddering descent. The moon's thin atmosphere offered little resistance as the transport screamed toward the surface, trailing smoke and vaporized metal. The impact came faster than expected. Metal screeched against rock as the vessel skidded across the moon's dusty surface before coming to rest at an awkward angle. Inside the cockpit, Elias hung suspended in his harness, blood trickling from a gash on his forearm where a panel had broken free during the crash. His vision blurred. The acrid smell of burning circuitry filled his lungs. With the last of his strength, he activated the emergency beacon before darkness claimed him. Thalira had been cataloging medicinal compounds when the outpost sensors detected the incoming vessel. As the only Nexthari staff member currently on rotation at this remote facility, emergency response fell to her. "Biosigns detected," she reported into her communicator as she approached the crash site in the medical rover. "One life form, faint but stable." Her silver-blue skin shimmered under the harsh emergency lights as she extracted tools from her medical kit. The Nexthari were relatively new to the Galactic Alliance, their unique biological capabilities making them valuable additions to medical teams throughout colonized space. The ship's emergency hatch yielded to her override code. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and the metallic tang of human blood, a scent her sensitive chemoreceptors could detect even before she saw the unconscious man strapped in the pilot's seat. Thalira's four-fingered hands worked methodically, checking his pulse and applying a temporary seal to the most obvious wound on his forearm. Her cranial tendrils, sensory appendages that extended from her scalp in place of hair, twitched slightly, analyzing the atmospheric compounds. "Human male, approximately 30 standard years," she noted clinically. "Suffering from mild hypoxia, laceration to right forearm, possible concussion." The human groaned as she unfastened his harness, his eyes fluttering open briefly before closing again. She needed to get him back to the medical bay quickly. As she maneuvered him onto the transport stretcher, a fresh trickle of blood seeped from beneath the temporary bandage on his arm. Without hesitation, Thalira leaned forward, her cranial tendrils extending slightly. "You're leaking," she murmured, more to herself than to him. Following the diagnostic instincts ingrained by generations of Nexthari healers, she delicately touched the blood with the tip of her specialized sensory finger, then brought it to her mouth. The human's eyes snapped open just as her tongue made contact with his blood. His expression shifted from disorientation to shock. What are you doing?" he gasped. Thalira looked at him calmly, already processing the complex information from his blood chemistry. Elevated adrenaline, mild dehydration, trace amounts of a synthetic stimulant common among long-haul pilots. "Standard Nexthari diagnostic procedure," she explained matter-of-factly. "I am Thalira, medical officer of Outpost Zeta-17. Your body chemistry suggests you've been pushing yourself too hard even before the crash." The human stared at her, clearly trying to reconcile what he'd just witnessed with his understanding of medical practices. "Elias," he managed finally. "Elias Vance, and where I come from, doctors use scanners, not tongues." A slight violet blush colored Thalira's cheeks, the Nexthari equivalent of embarrassment. "My apologies for not explaining first. Your species relies heavily on technology for what mine can do naturally. Rest assured it's perfectly sanitary." As she guided the stretcher into the medical rover, Elias continued to watch her with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. The last rays of the system's distant sun caught the iridescent patterns along her temples, highlighting features both alien and strangely beautiful. "I've heard of Nexthari medics," he said as the rover's doors sealed shut. "They say you can taste diseases before scanners can detect them." Thalira nodded as she initiated the rover's return sequence. "Your blood tells me you're stronger than you look, Elias Vance. You'll need that strength in the days ahead." Little did either of them know how prophetic those words would prove to be. Elias woke to the gentle hum of medical equipment. The ceiling above him pulsed with a soft bioluminescent glow, living light organisms cultured specifically for their calming properties, as he would later learn. He tried to sit up, wincing as pain shot through his ribs. "The structural integrity of your rib cage has been compromised," came Thalira's melodic voice from across the room. "3 fractures. I've applied regenerative compound, but you must remain still." She approached his bedside, her movements fluid and deliberate. In the brighter light of the medical bay, Elias could better appreciate the unusual beauty of his caretaker. The Nexthari's silver-blue skin featured subtle patterns that shifted with her moods, currently displaying the calm, ordered lattice of professional focus. "How long have I been out?" Elias asked, his voice raspy. 26 standard hours. Thalira lifted a translucent container filled with iridescent liquid. "Your body required time to stabilize. You are fortunate. The crash could have ended your biological functions permanently." Despite her clinical tone, Elias noticed how gently she supported his head as she helped him drink the revitalizing solution. It tasted like mint, and something else he couldn't identify, sweet yet slightly metallic. "Your ship sustained significant damage," she continued. "I've notified Alliance authorities, but communication delays mean assistance won't arrive for at least 14 days. Elias groaned. 2 weeks stranded on a remote medical outpost would feel like an eternity. As if reading his thoughts, Thalira's cranial tendrils rippled slightly. "Our facility is adequately equipped for your recovery," she assured him. "Once your condition stabilizes further, I can show you the hydroponics garden and recreation areas." Over the next 3 days, Elias observed Thalira's work with growing fascination. The medical bay received 2 emergency patients, a mining technician with respiratory distress and a colonial child with an unknown rash. Each time, Thalira's diagnostic method remained the same: a small sample tasted, followed by immediate analysis more accurate than the outpost's aging scanners. On the 4th morning, feeling stronger, Elias sat at the edge of his bed while Thalira changed his bandages. "Doesn't it disgust you?" he asked finally, tasting someone else's blood or saliva. Thalira's patterns shifted to a contemplative swirl. "Does your sense of vision disgust you, or your hearing?" She tilted her head. "My chemosensory abilities are simply another way to perceive the world. For my people, it is sacred, the most intimate way to understand another's needs." She unwrapped the bandage on his arm, revealing the healing gash. Without medical equipment, Elias realized, the wound might have become infected in the crashed ship's environment. "Among the Nexthari, only those with the strongest empathic abilities are selected for medical training," she continued. "We must taste the suffering of others to truly understand how to heal it." "That's beautiful, actually," Elias admitted. Thalira's skin patterns flickered with surprise before settling into a warm, pleased arrangement he hadn't seen before. Later that day, she helped him walk to the hydroponics garden, a vast chamber where plants from dozens of worlds grew in carefully maintained conditions. Elias marveled at the diversity: phosphorescent fungi from Europa, gravity-defying vines from Proxima b, and even a small patch of Earth-native plants. "You have basil," he noted with surprise, reaching out to touch the fragrant leaves. Thalira nodded. "Many species find comfort in familiar flora. I've studied the chemical properties of your earth herbs, fascinating compounds." As they continued their tour, an alarm sounded from the medical bay. Thalira immediately supported Elias to a nearby bench before hurrying toward the sound. He watched her go, admiring her dedication and the graceful efficiency of her movements. That evening, after treating an allergic reaction in one of the outpost's maintenance workers, Thalira brought dinner to Elias' room. She had prepared a nutrient-rich soup using ingredients compatible with human physiology, including some of the earth herbs. "This is delicious," Elias said after his first spoonful. "How did you know how to prepare human food?" "I analyzed the chemical composition and structural integrity requirements," she answered matter-of-factly. Then, nodding his amused expression, she added, "And I may have consulted the cultural database." As they shared the meal, Elias found himself sharing stories of his engineering work on distant colonies, while Thalira spoke of her home world, a place where taste and scent formed the foundation of art, communication, and healing. "Tomorrow," she said as she collected the empty dishes, "your mobility should be sufficient for physical therapy in the low-gravity chamber." At the doorway she paused, her patterns shifting to something Elias hadn't seen before, a complex, almost hesitant arrangement. "I'm glad you no longer find my methods unsettling," she said softly. "Understanding between different species begins with accepting that there are many ways to perceive the universe." Long after she left, Elias found himself thinking about her words and about the unexpected grace with which she navigated between their worlds. For the first time since the crash, he felt something beyond mere gratitude for his survival, a curiosity about the being who had saved him and the unique perspective she offered. A week into his stay at Outpost Zeta 17, Elias had established a routine. Mornings began with physical therapy, afternoons were spent helping Thalira with minor repairs around the medical facility, and evenings often found them in the observation dome, watching the gas giant that the moon orbited rotate slowly through its celestial dance. Today, however, something was different. Elias woke feeling unusually fatigued, his skin clammy despite the perfectly regulated temperature of his recovery room. "Your body is fighting something," Thalira observed when she arrived for his morning checkup. Her cranial tendrils extended slightly, analyzing the subtle changes in his scent. "Just tired," Elias insisted. "Probably overdid the exercises yesterday." Thalira's skin patterns shifted to a formation he now recognized as concern. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to his arm where the wound was nearly healed. He nodded, no longer uncomfortable with her diagnostic method. Thalira gently pressed her specialized finger against the healing scar, gathering a microscopic sample of his cells. When she tasted it, her eyes widened, patterns flashing in alarm, the Nexthari equivalent of a gasp. "Synthetic metabolic inhibitor," she said, her voice tense. "Traces of coolant from your ship's damaged systems must have entered your bloodstream during the crash." She rushed to retrieve a portable scanner, confirming what her senses had already told her. The device beeped ominously as she passed it over Elia's chest. "The compound is affecting your liver function. It wouldn't appear on standard scans until significant damage had occurred." Her tendrils rippled with agitation. "If I hadn't detected it now." Elias felt a chill that had nothing to do with his symptoms. "How bad is it?" "Treatable, but I need to synthesize a specific enzyme to neutralize the compound." Thalira was already moving to her laboratory section. "Your physiology is different from the standard human profiles in our database. I'll need to custom formulate the treatment." Throughout the day, Elias' condition deteriorated. Fever set in, accompanied by waves of nausea. Thalira worked tirelessly, her slender fingers manipulating complex biochemical equipment with practiced precision. Occasionally, she would return to his bedside, taking new samples and adjusting her formulations. During a moment of clarity between fever spikes, Elias watched her work. "You could have just used the standard treatment protocol," he murmured. Thalira didn't look up from her delicate task. "The standard protocol has a 78% success rate for your specific condition. Unacceptable. You're risking exhaustion for an extra 22%. This time she did look up, her expression solemn. "If our situations were reversed, would you accept 78%? The question hung in the air between them, weighted with implications neither was ready to voice. As night fell, the synthetic enzyme was finally ready. Thalira administered it through an IV, her touch lingering on his feverish skin. "Now we wait," she said, pulling a chair beside his bed. "You should rest," Elias protested weakly. "I prefer to monitor you personally." Her patterns formed the gentle, concerned configuration he'd come to cherish. The chemical agent is unpredictable in human systems. Despite his insistence that she rest, Thalira remained vigilant throughout the night. When Elias woke from fitful sleep, she was always there, sometimes checking his vitals, sometimes simply watching over him with those luminous eyes that seemed to see far beyond the surface. During one such awakening, in the darkest hour before dawn, Elias found her humming softly, a melodic sequence that resonated at a frequency just beyond human hearing, but somehow felt soothing to his inflamed senses. "What is that?" he whispered. "A healing harmony from my homeworld," she explained, her voice barely audible. "The vibrations help stimulate cellular regeneration." "It's beautiful," he said, drifting back toward sleep. Just before consciousness faded, he felt something unexpected. The gentle touch of her fingers against his face, tracing the contour of his cheek with a tenderness that transcended professional care. By morning, his fever had broken. The enzyme had successfully neutralized the toxic compound, leaving Elias weak but recovering. When he opened his eyes, he found Thalira asleep in the chair beside him, her usually perfect posture slumped with exhaustion. He studied her in the soft morning light, the subtle iridescence of her skin, the gentle rhythm of her breathing. Something had shifted between them during the night, some barrier dissolved in the crucible of crisis. Without waking her, Elias reached out to touch her hand where it rested on the edge of the bed. Her skin was cooler than a human's, with a faint electric quality that sent a pleasant tingle up his arm. Her cranial tendrils stirred slightly at the contact, as if sensing him even in sleep. At that moment, as the first light of the distant sun streamed through the viewport, Elias accepted a truth he'd been avoiding. His fascination with the Nexthari healer had evolved into something far more profound than gratitude or curiosity. The realization should have frightened him. She was, after all, fundamentally different from any being he had ever known. Yet as Thalira's eyes slowly opened, her patterns shifting to a configuration he'd never seen before, one that he somehow understood meant joy, Elias felt only a sense of rightness, as if some cosmic equation had finally balanced.